Move. Starting up the stroomz. Starting them up the stroomz. Start them up the stroomz. Starting them up the stroomz. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, twerkers, jerkers, and lurkers, witches, liches, and bitches? It is time once again for another edition of Johnston Blackhorse Doomsday Drawings with your host, me, Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I'm here to do damn motherfucking drawings. Okay, been kind of a slow day. I started out strong, had a stream, and then kind of got busy, just running an errand, and then afterwards, once I got back, just been a little lazy. Getting back to the stroomz. But let's go ahead and get back into it, shall we? Oh, let me, of course, post oh shit, I put a comma there instead of a period. Damn it. Anyway. Let's get back. Just get back into it. I want to listen to some spooky stories, but I don't know. I don't know what to listen to. I think I've listened to all the spooky stories that are worth listening to. Hellhounds. That sounds interesting. Let's put that on.
Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
A few of my relatives were raised in the North Carolina mountains. There were a lot of stories that came out of the region, but the one tale that each one of us knew the best was that of the demon dog of Val Crucis. The community of Val Crucis, which is Latin for Vale of the Cross and refers to the valley where three streams come together to form a shape similar to a cross, is rustic and a favorite destination for tourists. But don't let the quaint scenery hide the truth. There is a dark side to Val Crucis. There's an old stone church, St. John's Episcopal, located along Highway 194 just on the edge of town, where in the churchyard cemetery the supernatural moves among the venerable graves. St. John's was built in the 1860s, and the legends of the hellhound and other strange beings have been told for several generations. The traditional story starts on a clear moonlit autumn night. Two young men, who were students at a local college, were driving through the Val Crucis area when they received the shock of their lives. They were driving along Highway 195 that leads through Val Crucis at around midnight. As their car passed the old church, the young men saw a large shadow leap out from behind one of the tombstones in the church graveyard. The shadow leaped into the road in front of them. The driver swerved his car to avoid the shape that suddenly landed in his path. He slammed his foot on the brake and pulled his car over to the shoulder of the road, according to the witnesses' accounts. Both he and his friend were startled to see that it was a massive dog. It was as tall and big as a fully grown man. The fearsome canine was covered with bristling black fur and had large yellow teeth. And most unusual of all, the dog's eyes were glowing. They were not reflecting back the light like a dog's or cat's eyes will sometimes do. Instead, these eyes were really glowing with a weird red light. One of the young men turned to the other and asked, "Do you see that?" His friend said no, and neither do you. As the unearthly growling beast walked toward their car, the driver took his foot off the brake and hit the gas. The car roared down the winding mountain road and barely made it along the sharp curves. The driver did his best to control the car as the speedometer reached 60 and then 70 miles an hour. The driver looked in his rear view mirror and his face turned white from what he saw. The ghostly dog was keeping up with his speeding car. It was even gaining on them. Determined to get away from the nightmarish canine, the driver pushed his accelerator even harder. His car leaped over a bridge just below where the streams meet to form a cross. At that point, the dog stopped following them and vanished from sight. The two frightened young men drove into Boone and stopped at the local diner because it was the only place open at that hour. They knew they would not get any sleep that night. They also knew they would never forget the demon dog of Val Crucis. Traditionally, the tales from this area center around a supernatural canine, but there have been other odd sightings, including the apparition of a woman near the very same cemetery. There have also been sounds of gunshots and of a female crying. No one has attributed these sounds to any known event, but it's just another unexplained occurrence typically encountered at the location.
Some years ago, in 2015, I was talking to an old school friend's mother. They were farmers in the town of Kirkham, Lancashire. She told me a story of the time she saw a strange animal at the bottom of one of her fields. In the summertime, every evening, she would walk the fields with her black Labrador. At the time, her son had put out a couple of garden chairs under a tree for her to sit on. These were placed in the last field she used to walk in. The dog would sniff and run around as they do. She would sit and enjoy the evening sunshine. One evening, she had her usual walk with her dog. She got to the last field and sat down for a rest and enjoyed the view. Then at the very bottom of the field, which backs onto the railway lines, she saw a large animal. I asked her what it looked like. She described seeing a large dark brown or black animal about the size of a bull, but it looked more like a dog. It was walking on all fours from right to left, keeping very close to the fence which separated her land and the railway cutting. She is not sure if it was on her side of the fence or the railway side. I asked her if it was a wild boar or a deer or just a large dog. The answer was a definite no. This lady had been around animals and farmyard stock all her life, and I am pretty sure she knew what she saw, and it was none of the animals I mentioned.
A couple of years ago,
What's
I
up,
was driving
Dasco?
my girlfriend of the time home late one night. We stopped at an intersection near her neighborhood where I decided to look down to change the song playing on my phone. When I looked back up, I saw a large black dog run right in front of my headlights. My girlfriend said,
Whoa, did you see that?
"Yeah, it was just a dog."
No, that dog looks weird.
Right there, and then it passed in front of my lights again. I was terrified when I noticed it had no features but more like a solid black mass in the shape of a dog. It ran past my window, and I noticed it had what seemed like smoke coming off of it. What the F is that? I screamed. It circled around and went past my
Sleepy,
girlfriend's
dinner
window, going
time.
directly
Yeah.
into my car's beam of lights again.
Almost dinner time
As
over
soon
here.
as it cleared them, I floored it and sped off down the street. We both couldn't believe what we had seen. When we got to her house, we sat in the car and tried to process what had happened. She broke down in tears and revealed to me that an uncle of hers had seen the dog we had just seen shortly before he passed. She said what we had seen was exactly what he had described to her family. He said he felt it was death coming after him. I comforted her as she cried and tried to play tough, but deep down I was absolutely terrified. Was it there for her or for me? A couple weeks later, I was driving alone one night down a dark country road that I would usually cruise on the weekend. Everything was normal when I noticed something moving just out of the beams of the light of the car on the edge of the road as I drove. I slowed down and was shocked to see what was revealed by my headlights. It was that dog again, but this time it was running alongside my car as I drove. I was terrified when I suddenly remembered that the speed limit for this road was 70 miles per hour. This thing was keeping up with me. It was exactly like I had seen it before. A large black mass with smoke coming off of it. As I glanced back and forth between the road and it, I slammed on the brakes. When I turned to look at it, its head was backwards, not turned, and it was looking right at me with glowing white eyes. I'd never been more afraid in my whole life. I immediately did a U-turn and hauled ass back into town. I was shaking the entire way home. Was what I saw a hellhound or something else? Are these things associated with death? My grandfather passed shortly after these events. I've spotted the dog a couple of times since then while driving, but only for a brief moment as I passed it.
I'm from the UK, and I was wondering if you had any idea what this might have been. I was young at the time, about 11 years old, and was taking a walk in the woods with a good friend of mine who I still know to this day. At the time, I lived in a small village in the south of England. My friend lived in the village next to mine, and I was over at her place for the day. She lived in an old-style Victorian house which was separated from the rest of the village by a woodland area about 2 miles deep. They were and still are quite posh and pretty well off. There was a small country road that went round the side of the woodlands and connected their house and the village, but when walking we always cut through the woods as it was so much faster. Right at the edge of the woods, before the rest of the village, was a livery yard where there were lots of horses. We used to go and sneak apples too and pet, and that day we were on our way to do this. Once we reached around the halfway point through the woods, there was a small clearing in the trees. We stopped to use a rope swing on the edge of the clearing. My friend was pushing me on the road swing when we heard something in the woods howl. I remember distinctly the fact that it didn't sound like a regular dog howl. I've grown up in a family with lots of large dogs, and it just didn't sound quite the same. It sounds silly, but it just didn't sound right. Normally, I wouldn't really take much notice and pass it off as someone out walking a dog, but I looked at my friend and they looked nervous and frozen in place too. It was that sort of moment when your instincts are trying to figure out whether there's a real threat there or not. I don't really know how to describe it, but it just sounded too perfect, almost like it was a fake sound effect being played. We don't have wolves or anything similar in the UK, so it had to have been a pet dog, but it just howled once perfectly and then it stopped. There was nothing, no barking, no other howls, not even the sound of any movement in the woods. It was just dead silence. After a few seconds, without talking, we sort of both silently agreed to get a move on and not delay any further. We walked onwards without talking. A while later, with about 1/4 of the way left to go, my friend stopped suddenly in front of me and pointed at the trees in the distance in front of us. I looked and could see in the distance something that looked like a wolf, but so much bigger, standing and staring right at us. It was a little ways away, so I don't exactly have any specifics, but it was at least as tall as my 11-year-old self. Each paw was planted firmly on the ground, a dark brown shaggy body positioned directly at us. Its ears were up, and I remember vividly it had yellow, amber eyes. I know domestic dogs can have light brown eyes that can kind of look orangey, but I've never seen one with yellow eyes, which is something that always has stuck with me. We were sort of stuck there for a while looking at it until it eventually backed off into the woods. I remember if I didn't turn around and walk away, it walked slowly backwards, in a sort of unnatural, uncomfortable way until it was out of view. It just struck me as odd. We obviously weren't a threat to it, it was massive. It also had decided it didn't really want anything to do with us, as it wasn't coming after us. Normally, if a dog isn't interested in a toy, it would just turn around and walk away, but it just backed off unnaturally, like it didn't know what it should be doing. After that, we ran back in the direction we'd come from all the way back to her house. We were much closer to the village, but at that point there was no way we were going the direction the wolf thing disappeared to. It could have been a normal dog, but the thing is, it was massive, had bright yellow eyes, and no owner in sight. Even if it was a massive stray dog, these sort of things don't really go unnoticed, as unlike places like America with lots of wide open spaces. In England, you are never more than a couple of miles away from somewhere inhabited, and people are always walking through the countryside, so surely anything living should have been caught at some point, or at least been made aware. As well as this, things like wolves just simply don't live in the UK, so that couldn't be a possibility, even though it was much bigger than any normal dog.
What's up, Brab and Kizmarsik?
Very curious. Reminds me of this story my strict, no-nonsense grandfather told, over and over to anyone who would listen, and swore to its truth, even as his mental state/memory deteriorated later in his life. Be my late grandfather, late 1950s. Born and raised in remote, very religious Greece, mountainous and secluded area. Walking back to his own village once late at night. Here's something trotting behind him. It's a little dog, almost puppy-sized. Grandfather thinks it's strange, hadn't encountered any dogs of that kind, especially alone in such a remote area. Doesn't think much of it, keeps walking. Continues to hear trotting. Turns around again. This time, he swears the dog was a little larger than before, but he dismisses it as his imagination. He is slightly spooked, but the dog still seems harmless, if not a little strange in following him. Trotting seems to get louder. Grandfather turns around once more. There is no disputing it this time. The dog was definitely larger, considerably so, growling quietly. Now he's definitely frightened, and every time he looks over his shoulder, the dog is getting larger and larger and seems to have evolved into some kind of hellhound or demon. He's running now for his life from this demonic hound, convinced entirely he had somehow attracted some demon or other.
Checking you out, bro. Are you gonna go back to play D&D with us?
Busts inside, slamming the door shut
just
and
really
encasing
busy,
himself
just
in darkness.
either trying to make
against
money,
the door, panting in terror.
because I've got like a pretty hefty bill, with the new tires I got for my Escalade. And I needed new tires, but I was just hoping they'd last a little while longer. So I knew I'd have to get new tires. I was just hoping it would have happened when I was a little more financially better off, but sadly that wasn't the case. So like, there's just too much time to like try to like make money and be here for family and take on commissions from my one sole commission Client. So yeah. Excuse me.
As he does so, he swears to this day he heard a cold voice on the other side of the door that chills him to this day. You're lucky you were protected tonight. Grandfather believes the demon was referring to the piece of an Orthodox saint's fabric that he died in, I think. Otherwise, something similarly blessed, he kept on him for protection. The saint had a connection to my grandfather's region.
I live in a nice suburb of Metro Detroit. There aren't many large animals in the area, aside from deer. The only other animals in the area are your typical pets, squirrels, and an occasional fox or two for the most part. It's a pretty tame area. I was driving through the neighborhood leaving my girlfriend around midnight last summer. As I was driving north on a street in the subdivision, something caught my eye from the very left edge of my field of view. It appeared to be a very large and well-built creature, hurtling from a backyard on the grass and into the street. I slammed on my brakes immediately in disbelief at what I was witnessing. It was moving extremely fast. I don't have a very good estimate, but I would say at least 40 to 50 miles per hour. The yard in which it emerged from was directly facing a short cul-de-sac that backed up to some trees and then more houses beyond that. I immediately turned right facing the court so that my headlights would illuminate the path it seemed to be running. I was only able to witness it for a few more seconds, but I have no doubt in my mind that whatever I witnessed was real. The creature was very large. If I had to compare the size to another animal, I'd say it was about the size of an adult lion. The body type appeared to be that of a dog, although I've never seen any breed of dog this size, and there are absolutely no wild, stray dogs in the area. It had a pitch black coat, and while I could slightly make out the shape of its head from the side, I never saw its eyes or mouth. When it ran past my headlights initially, it never acknowledged my presence. It did not turn and look at me, slow down, or do anything that was directed toward me. When I turned towards the court, I was only able to see the back of the creature before it disappeared into the backyard of the center house on the court and into the woods. Determined to get a better look, I drove recklessly over 40 miles per hour out of the court and around the bend to the street in which the yard would back up, but it was already gone. I continued to drive home and tell my girlfriend about what I had seen. With no explanation, I kind of shrugged it off as just being a very unusual night. Now, this is what I believe was my second encounter with what I'm guessing was a hellhound. I don't remember exactly how many days later it was, probably about a week, but I went to smoke a cigarette outside my house around midnight. I typically go out through my garage and smoke on the side of my house next to the garage. I put on my shoes and walked through my laundry room to the garage door. It's an attached garage. As I stepped into my garage, I had a very bad feeling overtake me. It's the type of feeling you get when you think you're being watched or stalked. The hairs on my neck and arms stood up, and I felt a very eerie, sinking feeling in the bottom of my stomach. I paused, stood completely still, not breathing, to assess the situation. A few seconds passed and I heard and saw nothing. I looked over to my right to see that the side door was completely shut, but something still did not feel right. There are two vehicles that stay parked in my garage that are for summer driving only. I look around and still don't see or hear anything. Then, out of what seemed like nowhere, the furthest vehicle from me begins to shake. I immediately think, oh, it's just a cat, but then I realize that there's no way any house cat in my neighborhood could cause the vehicle to move like that. That's when it went from scary to absolutely frightening. As the car is shaking, I hear the most horrific sound I probably will ever hear in my entire life. It sounded like an extremely deep growl mixed with high, alternating pitches of screeching all at the same time. The noise hit me at the deepest, most primal level and struck a level of fear I've never experienced. Even when I've faced life or death situations, held up at gunpoint, I've never felt this feeling. It was deafeningly loud and the vehicle began to shake even more. The noise was more horrifying than anything Hollywood could dream up. It sounded like whatever it was warning me to leave, but then began to get angered at my presence. I was too afraid to stay any longer and immediately slammed the door into my house and locked both locks. I put a note on the door telling my brother to go out the front in the morning, as there's something in the garage and it's extremely agitated. I ended up calming down and going to sleep without really worrying about it. When I woke up, I saw my note and kind of laughed at myself for being so afraid. I went out through the front door and walked around to the side of my garage. The door was still shut. I sighed and decided that it was daylight. There was nothing to be afraid of. I opened the door away from me very quickly. Before I could blink, a pitch-black creature sprinted out of the door. This time, it was not as large as my initial encounter, but moved faster than any animal I've ever seen in person, sans the other encounter. It appeared to be the size of a medium-large-sized dog, about 75 pounds, but the speed in which it was moving is inconsistent with any dog. Again, it seemed to be moving over 40 to 50 miles per hour, allowing me only to see it for a few seconds before it was over 50 yards from me, disappearing into the woods. Again, with the second encounter, it never looked at me. I never got a glimpse of its face or its eyes. I never stopped to think that what I had seen might have been paranormal until today. When I searched the description, I was horrified to see it match that of a hellhound. It seems the mythology behind these creatures is a bit contradicting. Omen of death, nothing may occur, or possibly a protector, but now I'm worried I'll encounter it for a third time. I always felt it was unusual that it never looked at me, but now I'm thankful that it seemed to consciously choose not to. Folklore says that if it looks you in the eyes 3 times, it's a guaranteed omen of death. So now here I am and I don't know what to think. I feel confident that if this was a hellhound, it was not looking for me, but I don't know that for sure.
I believe my husband and I saw a hellhound. We live in rural northern Idaho, and we both hunt. So we know everything about animals, even in pitch darkness. We don't have normal plumbing. We have to turn on an electric well every morning to fill it up. Our tank can last us 3 to 4 days, but we like it filled, just in case. There are other tanks like that scattered in the woods, just waiting for someone to buy the land and build a home. We were taking a walk and it got dark, so we went back home. However, on our way home we saw something, not human or animal, near the well. It was hunched over like it was eating. We walked carefully closer, about 20 feet from this thing, trying to figure out what it is. Too large for a stray dog or wolf and too small for a bear. But whatever it was, it looked at us with red eyes. I've never been more scared in my life. My husband is scared of nothing and he was scared too. We took off running. My God, we never ran so fast in our lives. It did chase for a while, then it just disappeared. We got to our house and it was just gone. We knew it was behind us when we left the woods, but we couldn't see it. We locked all the windows and doors that night. We talked to one of the town locals about the thing we saw. He showed us a picture of a hellhound. He told us stories about people meeting the hellhound in the same area, always near a well, roads, crossroads, or places of death. Seeing him once will bring us happiness, seeing him twice will bring us sorrow, and seeing him 3 times will bring us death. I don't know what we saw, but hellhound is the only explanation.
I actually had a strange demon dog encounter. My hellhound / demon dog / chupacabra / hyena sighting also occurred in broad daylight at very close range, as it was eating a large goose down in the creek bed, and I must have startled it since I came right up on it unexpectedly. I am a biologist and I have a background in several specialized biological fields, have conducted tons of field research, and have been in forests and swamps ever since learning how to walk. This thing was massive and canine, but sort of had hints of feline or hyena-like traits as far as its overall morphology and structure. It also moved oddly for a dog. As I said, I was almost right on top of it by the time we saw each other, and I slowly backed away, and once I had enough distance between us, I promptly fled. This encounter was very short, so I didn't have a lot of time to study every feature of its body, and I always chalked it up to simply being a massive and extremely bizarre or deformed dog, but I can't really justify that line of thinking, as this creature was unlike any canine I have ever seen or that appears in the fossil record of...
Oh no, what am I doing? Here I am streaming without my moderator, thinking like, oh, I don't want to disturb her while she's playing her video games. But here, she's the one who put forth the suggestion for Hell of a Boss Luna art. Huh. Oh yeah, back to the story. Back to the story.
North America. I live in Pennsylvania, and we're not exactly known for having exotic wildlife, and it's humbling to admit that I, as a biologist, have nothing but assumptions about what it could be. I couldn't even tell you what taxonomic family it belongs to. It was lanky for a dog and did have rather long hind legs. I wouldn't characterize it as wallaby or kangaroo-like. It seemed to have high shoulders and moved more like a big cat, more stealthily.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
Let's see. Then we'll try college experiences. See how spooky that might be.
Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I have two stories of people I know personally who had kind of a similar disappearance experience on a college campus. They both happened in my freshman year of college. The first time it was a buddy of mine from the dorms. We had all been out partying and stuff. You know, we had been drinking, but all of us were coherent. We weren't like blacked out drunk or anything. And, anyway, we're going back to the dorms at the end of the night, and one of my buddies had his bicycle with him. The rest of us are walking and he's kind of, you know, riding circles around us on his bike. Finally, he takes off once we get to campus. He takes off heading south towards the dorms. So we figured, okay, we're gonna get back to the dorms. He's gonna be there waiting for us. We get back to the dorms and he's not there. So we waited around. We figure maybe he got food or something. And so he doesn't turn up for like an hour, so we start calling him and texting him and stuff and no response. Finally, he answers the phone after about 2 hours and all we hear is like super heavy breathing, and we're trying to talk to him, like, hey man, where are you? What's going on? And it's just super heavy breathing, and finally we start hearing him and it's kind of like mumbling. We can't really make out what he's saying, and then he hangs up the phone. So we went back out and started looking for him around campus and stuff. Nothing. We couldn't find him. So, the next day, he shows up around 1 p.m. He comes back to the dorm and he looks like crap. He's wearing the same clothes as the night before. He looked terrible and we were like, dude, what happened? He goes, I don't know. I woke up in a field like 6 miles north of campus. The last time we saw him, he was biking south. He winds up 6 miles north. And he's like, yeah, I woke up in a field. My bike is gone. I have no idea what happened and I just had to walk home. So to this day we have no idea what happened to him. We were all experienced with alcohol and stuff. We knew how to handle our drinks. None of us were blacked out. We were all coherent. Otherwise I would have just figured he was super drunk and had no idea, but we saw him heading south onto campus. I mean, he rode onto campus, which is well lit. There are police officers patrolling, you know, and he winds up far north. So, super weird. Anyways, it gets weirder. About maybe 2 months later, my roommate didn't come home after one night of partying, which was normal for him. He had friends that lived off campus who he would occasionally crash with at night. And so he doesn't come home, and
There's my honey kitty.
He's just staying with friends. Next day, he still hasn't come back.
She says boop.
Next morning, I figured, okay, maybe they got breakfast together, they're hanging out or whatever. By the afternoon, I'm starting to get weirded out here. Sure enough, a couple of his friends he would have been staying with come knock on my door and they say, "Hey man, have you seen so-and-so?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen him. I thought he was with you guys." Sure enough, they're like, "Dude, he left the party last night and none of us have seen him. He's not answering his phone. We don't know where he is. Last we heard from him, he posted a video of this. It's Snapchat where you post short videos of yourself. They're like, he posted a couple of videos of him riding his bike down a big street just like breathing super heavy. And we're like, what the hell?" So finally it turns out, we called the county sheriff thinking, we called the hospital. We called the sheriff trying to figure out if they picked him up. Turns out they picked him up about a half-mile away from the field where my other buddy spent the night. They picked him up a half-mile further down the same road driving a golf cart. He lost his bike and somehow wound up on a golf cart. Totally healthy. This was Santa Barbara County, California.
How the hell are these guys like losing their
Reptilian
bikes?
hybrid a few years ago while attending college in Oregon. This individual was extremely manipulative with words and dangerous with its deeds. Once I told him that he was a cold-blooded bastard after he humiliated a friend. He became very angry, staring at me with a hideous glare. He said I would suffer for my disrespect. That night while studying in my dorm room, I was alarmed by a shadowy figure starting to manifest. I am sensitive to energy, so I immediately started to raise the vibration in the room. It quickly dissipated. That startled me, so I was at full alert. Later that night at approximately 2 a.m. I awoke from what I thought was a dream.
What? This story sounds completely like, I don't know, I think this guy's full of shit.
Hybrid a few years ago while attending college in Oregon.
Like, how do you know that you ran into like a reptilian hybrid?
This individual was extremely manipulative with words and dangerous with its deeds. Once I told him that he was a cold-blooded bastard after he humiliated a friend. He became very angry, staring at me with a hideous glare. He said I would suffer for my disrespect. That night while studying in my dorm room, I was alarmed by a shadowy figure starting to manifest. I am sensitive to energy, so I am...
I don't know, it just sounds so made up. It's like, kind of reminds me of someone I went to college with. Didn't associate them at all, but like, during one of our classes, we're just like meant to introduce ourselves and tell the class a little something about ourselves. So we say our name, like what our interest might be, or something interesting. But this person like said their name and like also put it out there like, I have a connection with wolves. Huh, great. That's it. That's all they said. It's like, I have a connection with wolves. It's like, okay. Like, do you live amongst them? Do they talk to you? Like, I don't know. Weird. Kind of like one of those like quasi wannabe spiritualists without actually being like much of a spiritualist, because like the spiritualists I know, they just, they're not like really upfront or like brag about it. But this guy, he's like just kind of putting it out there like, I am sensitive to energy. Yeah, I don't know.
To raise the vibration in the room.
Dasco Joe says, when you run into Zuckerberg, you'll know. I have autism. What? Zuckerberg? Is that freaking Facebook guy?
Quickly dissipated. That startled me, so I was at full alert. Later that night at approximately 2 a.m. I awoke from what I thought was a dream, but alarmed by a grotesque reptilian form on top of my body attempting to choke me. It screeched and wailed like it was taking great delight in my fear and pain. I struggled and finally threw the fiend off me. As it cowered on the floor glaring at me, I immediately knew it was the individual I had insulted earlier. It thrust itself at me. I reached for my pants on my desk chair in order to retrieve my pocket knife. It was choking me as I pulled the weapon from my pants pocket and toiled to open the blade. I was able to push it off, long enough to slash it across its left arm and upper chest. With a howl of rage, it ran to the wall and disappeared through it. I turned the light on to fully illuminate the room and noticed blood on the knife, bed sheets, and floor. I checked myself to make sure it wasn't my blood. I was awake the rest of the night and ready to strike if I needed to defend myself. I was exhausted in the morning, but made my way to class. I noticed the individual coming out of his dorm room. He had a bandage on his left arm in the same spot where I had cut the reptilian. He noticed me and walked directly to me nose to nose. He glared at me with those evil reptilian eyes. "Watch your back, because this isn't over," he murmured. I walked past him and made my way to class. Later that day, the dorm staff and housing administrators wanted to talk to me. While I talked to one of the dorm staff regarding this individual, the administrator blurted out, "Don't provoke him. It's important that you not cause trouble for him." The dorm staff was obviously terrified of this guy and behaved like his minions. This was startling. That same night I felt wary of a presence watching me. That sense of dread continued for several weeks until I moved off campus to avoid this hostile individual.
God, this story is full of so much bullshit. Oh, Dasco's answered my question and says, yes, Facebook, reptilian. Zuckerberg has that energy. Well, yeah, Zuckerberg is like fucking, like, I was seeing photos of him. He's an odd looking duck.
However, I often notice him.
I guess if anyone had to be a reptilian, it'd have to be Zuckerberg, because he just looks so like uncanny.
And his acquaintances blatantly watching me when I'm on campus and in town. I know that I wasn't the only person affected by this guy, but no one ever dared to discuss it. Many strange things happened as well, including the sudden death of 2 students in that same dorm.
Sure.
No details of those deaths were ever disclosed, just that they died because of medical reasons. I know others are out there who are aware of the reptilians and that there are ways that humanity can use to defend itself against them. I have been fortunate to meet several people who safeguarded themselves and family. These terrible beings are a scourge that we will continue to confront. Be safe.
The following
Got a phone call. His mom. Hello? Okay. It is eat time, everybody. I shall BRB. So let me make a note of that in chat. Oh, loves you too, honey kitty. Honey kitty sending her hugs. Huggers. Hugger snuggers. Okay. I'm gonna need my bow because it's chicken soup. I shall BRB. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, it took a little while. Had to help my mom real quick. But chicken noodle, fry bread, yes. Woo, woo, woo. Soup is still hot. Mmm. 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 Yeah, fry bread. Oh. I gotta share, huh? From what I'm told, I make really good dough for bread and fry bread. And I make it really fast, too. Anyway.
Is my account of what I experienced while living in a haunted fraternity house. As the time goes by since I've lived there, my memories of what I experienced.
Oh, by share, do you mean you want me to show it, huh? Show it off a little bit. Whoops, that's not it. There we go. Yeah, here we are. Look at that. There's the fry bread. Already have it like dipped in some chicken noodle. Oh. Mmm. 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 Oh my God. So golden. Tender and crispy at the same time. Mmm. 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 More fry bread going in. Mmm. Mmm. I'm sorry, Desco. Okay, that's enough. I'll put the food away.
Are beginning to fade, so I've decided to write down and share everything I remember. The fraternity house stands in the middle of a bunch of factories and warehouses in downtown Cleveland. Its presence is very out of place as it's one of only a few historical houses of its age still standing in the area. When I lived there, it was very run down, holes in the foundation and some of the floors, and just looked like your quintessential haunted house. I haven't done any research, and the history of the house I learned was just hearsay passed down from the fraternity brothers who lived there before me. I've heard that it was once a house of prostitution and a halfway house before the fraternity purchased the property. I've heard of some deaths that occurred on or around the property in the past. I heard that the owner of the halfway house had been murdered in the third-floor bathroom, which was converted to a storage closet when I was living there. And there were 2 fraternity brothers who passed away. One who heard a gunshot in the streets outside the house and went out to investigate and was shot himself.
Oh, hold on. Let me back it up, because I want to hear the end of that fucking dipshit story.
No details of those deaths were ever disclosed, just that they died because of medical reasons.
Yeah, sure.
I know others are out there who are aware of the reptilians and that there are ways that humanity can use to defend itself against them. I have been fortunate to meet several people who safeguarded themselves and family. These terrible beings are a scourge that we will continue to confront. Be safe.
So fucking
The following
stupid.
is my account of what I experienced while living in a haunted fraternity house.
Oh, the reptilians are gonna get us.
As the time goes by since I've lived there, my memories of what I experienced are beginning to fade, so I've decided to write down and share everything I remember.
Cool story, bro.
The fraternity house stands in the middle of a bunch of factories and warehouses in downtown Cleveland. Its presence is very out of place as it's one of only a few historical houses of its age still standing in the area. When I lived there, it was very run down, holes in the foundation and some of the floors, and just looked like your quintessential haunted house. I haven't done any research, and the history of the house I learned was just hearsay passed down from the fraternity brothers who lived there before me. I've heard that it was once a house of prostitution and a halfway house before the fraternity purchased the property. I've heard of some deaths that occurred on or around the property in the past. I heard that the owner of the halfway house had been murdered in the third-floor bathroom, which was converted to a storage closet when I was living there. And there were 2 fraternity brothers who passed away. One who heard a gunshot in the streets outside the house and went out to investigate and was shot himself and died on the front steps. Another was involved.
Oh my god. Poor guy, but what a way to go. Oh, I hear gunshots. Let me go toward the vicinity from whence they came. And then he himself gets shot. Oh, yeah, great. Fucking man, it's like you hear gunshots, you either like fucking stay hidden, stay out of the way, or fucking run the other way. You don't run toward them, freaking ass.
In a deadly car crash a few blocks away from the house. I joined the fraternity during my first semester of college.
Oh, you want to wait an hour? Well, I would happily if we could actually trade, because it's been a while since I had a pot pie. Oh, pot pie sounds lovely. Oh, family went ahead and got like a new microwave over the weekend. Or, yeah. So it's gonna be nice to be able to like heat stuff up like really quick, like quick heat 'em ups, like frozen burgers or burritos, thaw out like leftover foods really quick. That's gonna be cool. Our last microwave started to like fucking glitch out on us. Could like hear like this sharp buzzing, and it would flash. And after a few times of doing that, it's like, nope, like we're fucking done with this. I don't want this freaking microwave to go like nuclear or something. So yeah, had to get rid of it. Anyway.
College with my group of friends I had made and was spending most of my extra time there hanging out and partying on the weekends. By the end of my first year of college, I had planned to move in that summer because of an irresistible opportunity of $75 a month rent for my own room and utilities. I never had a good feeling about the house. From my former experiences growing up in a home with some paranormal activity going on, I believe I developed some extra sense to feel spirits or entities around me, and I can remember these feelings being off the charts when I was in the house. I can remember I had a strange dream premonition before I moved.
Okay. Starting to delve into like the freaking reptilian story like realm here. But yeah, I can kind of like get where this guy's coming from. You have like several paranormal experiences, then you sort of become like more in tuned to the paranormal realm, especially if you like have a lot of those experiences. Like I've had several, but I wouldn't say like I'm sensitive to that stuff, because like though I am a believer, I am a skeptic believer. It's like I can hardly explain like the stuff that I've seen firsthand, other than just like labeling it as a paranormal experience. But when other people come forward with like stories, much like that reptilian dude, like, yeah, fucking bullshit, man. Oh, you had a run-in with a reptilian, now all of a sudden they're out to get you. Oh my gosh, it's a huge conspiracy. It's a fucking, yeah, get bent, dude. Like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit. But if like it's something where it's like someone comes forward like, oh hey, like may have seen a shadow person like a few times here or there, this is what happened, this is how it went down, like I'd be more willing to accept that, because like I've seen like a few things and it just like yeah, it's kind of creepy. But I think if you experience it more and you like kind of become more accustomed to it, like I think you're able to maybe open yourself up more to the realm of those possibilities. but not the freaking whole fucking reptilian thing with the fucking the secret society of reptilians. Oh, no, get out of here. Get out of here. Anyway.
Moved in. In my dream I was walking up to the house, but it was on a hill not surrounded by concrete streets and buildings, on a stormy night with thunder, lightning, and winds howling around the house. It was full of rats, overflowing. I could see them piled on top of each other through the windows and pouring out from under cracks under the doors and windows. The premonition actually came true, as after I had moved in I had discovered there was a big rodent problem in the house. When I had first moved in, it was the summer before classes had begun, and I had found myself to be alone in the house and completely terrified. I found myself alone there often, as I was not from Cleveland but grew up in another city about an hour away. Most of my roommates who were from the Cleveland area were not around on weekends and during college breaks. I'm a musician by trade and spent a lot of time practicing my instrument during college, as much and any time I could.
Like the skin flute?
It always kind of bugged me when I would practice and notice someone listening, and I could always tell if someone was looking through the practice room window at the School of Music even if I had my back turned to the door. I guess that sixth sense again tells me someone is there. I can remember the first week I moved in the house during the summer finding myself alone again. I decided to practice in my room at the house instead of walking to school. I can remember as
Daska said shepherd's pie would be good too. Oh yes, fucking shepherd's pie. With like lamb meat instead of like ground beef. Like I like a lot of the shepherd's pie I do have is just made with ground beef, but I'd love to try one with like roast mutton in it or something. Oh my gosh. Escadro says, man, back in the day, you would have to break into a shepherd's house, punch him in the mouth, and run off with his pie. Times were hard. Especially for the shepherds, man. People always taking their pies. Punching him in the face, you know. Getting, like, broke in on and assaulted. All for the sake of their pie. Man.
As soon as I began playing, I could feel like someone was standing right next to me watching. It was very distracting and creepy to the point that I never practiced there again. The first major experience I had next to the constant feeling of a presence watching me and following me around was the first of what I learned later was a lot of poltergeist activity. I was asleep in my loft in my room when I heard a window close to the bed fly open violently. As frightened as I was, I got out of bed to investigate the window. Now I guess if the window was open as its frame was wooden, it's possible due to changing levels of humidity the wooden window frame might expand or contract, causing the window to fall and shut. But it was opened, defying all laws of gravity. This left me afraid and puzzled the rest of the night. This was the beginning of a long time of being very fearful at night, just waiting to see what would happen next. We spent a lot of time with our sister sorority. These girls were at all our events, and a number of my frat brothers were dating the girls in that sorority. Around Halloween, our fraternity and their sorority would go to dinner and then to a haunted house, you know, the type you walk through and costumed employees jump out and scare you. We would then head back to our house, where we would take everyone to the basement, hit all the breaker switches in the electrical box, cutting off all power to the house, and light some candles and tell ghost stories. After about a half hour, it was like the whole house began to shake and we could hear banging on the floor upstairs and pipes rattling in the walls.
They're fucking.
All the girls ran out the front door screaming that night, leaving us trying to explain away what had made the noises. As I mentioned earlier, I slept in a loft. Each room was rectangular, shaped with a raised platform at one end and a small wooden ladder to get up there. There was enough space up there for a twin mattress and a little shelf I put at the head of the bed where an electrical outlet was. It was my habit of plugging my cell phone in the outlet and placing it on the little shelf above my head to charge while I slept. The ladder to get up there was also positioned at the head of the bed. I had just got into bed, plugged my cell phone up and pushed the phone and cord to the back of the shelf. As I'm about to fall asleep, the phone and cord fall off the shelf onto my head. I thought, okay, maybe it wasn't pushed that far back on the shelf. So I put them back up on the shelf again, making sure it was not going to fall again. A little later the phone and cord fell on me again. Okay, now I'm pretty freaked out and I put the phone back on the shelf a third time. That's
It's
when
an
I feel a
asshole
phantom
ghost.
hand grab my shoulder. I slept with my sheets over my head that night in absolute fear. One night we were partying at the house and I had to walk through the kitchen to get to the first floor restroom.
Oh,
There were folding tables set up.
what's up, Hirsch? Says, is this Skinwalker Stories time or what? No, we're just listening to paranormal experiences in college experiences. Yeah.
Against one wall of the kitchen for beer pong games, which diverted my path to the restroom right past the entrance to the basement. As I walked past the basement stairs, I felt what I can only describe as a strong wind that came from the basement.
Fart.
This wind was a burst of energy or force that pushed me back and that seemed to pass through me with a strange feeling that had me convinced I passed through a spirit or an entity passed through me. After a lot of hard work, I had won the yearly undergrad concerto competition sponsored by the School of Music and was preparing for the performance that went along with it. I was pulling other music students out of the hallway in the School of Music into my practice room every chance I got to play through my concerto for them to get as much experience as I could performing in front of people. I thought the most judgmental group I could play for was my frat brothers. So after a chapter meeting, I got up in front of all of them to play my piece. After I was done and everyone had gone home or back to their rooms, I was standing on top of the front stairs within the view of a large sliding wooden door that closed off the chapter room where our meetings took place. This door was serious, made of solid hardwood and at least 10 feet high and 6 feet across. It was easy to move on the rollers and track to shut it, but when you pushed it open and closed you could feel its weight. As we were standing at the top of the stairs, I was discussing my performance with two of my closest friends in the fraternity when the door violently slammed.
Okay. Let me do a search for Skinwalker Stories. Five allegedly true scary Skinwalker encounter stories. Ah, shit. This is 5 years ago. And it's like mislabeling them as like cryptid horror stories. I think I've like commented on these compilations several times. It's like skinwalkers aren't cryptids. It's like it's more akin to a witch. You wouldn't call a witch a cryptid. No, it's just someone who knows like dark magic and stuff. Witches aren't cryptids, you idiots. Nerds. Okay. I'll open this one up and we'll play it after this one's done.
Slammed shut on its own, with enough force that when it hit the end of the track it
Oh, wait a minute, is that what I think it is? And why aren't you sharing? Oh, there we go. You see nothing. Nothing.
swung back and halfway shut again. We looked at each other in astonishment. Did you see that?
What is it, Hirsch? Damn it, Johnny.
We all seemed to say it to each other at the same time. Now for the dark stuff.
Yes.
The things I don't like talking about. At the time I was really practicing hard and taking lessons with two different
The
professors at
sunrise
the
is
same
calling
time.
my name.
After a dinner at a bar with friends of greasy food and a few cocktails, I was feeling tired and figured if I went to practice I would really not get anything.
Well, wait, don't they sell the booze at Bluff? At the CNC gas station? Is it CNC? I think it is.
Done. Instead of going to the practice room after dinner, as was my habit, I decided to go to bed early and wake early to make up for the missed practice time. As it wasn't my usual schedule to go to bed at 7:30 p.m., I found myself trying
you're not
hard
in
to
Bluff?
fall asleep despite the heavy food in my stomach. As I lay there
thought
trying to
you lived in
relax, I
Bluff.
could hear faint talking, a conversation between two voices coming from inside my room. It was loud enough to distinguish speech patterns from two different voices, but faint enough that I could not make out exactly what they were saying.
I do?
This continued until
Well, not anymore, I guess. Okay. Last I remember, you lived in Blanding, but then recently I think I was told you lived in Bluff. I don't remember where. I live over this way, points with lips. Ah. Well, I guess I don't know where you live anymore.
This.
Whoops, wrong
I
video.
began having images projected into my thoughts. These images were not my own thoughts, I knew that much. They were disturbing to say the least, of intricate geometric pentagram shapes, with a baby in the middle attached to weird umbilical cords going into its mouth, nose, and ears. Very disturbing, and this left me contemplating my own insanity. After I sensed those images, I was convinced I was dealing with something more than just a haunting, something more darker. On a trip home one weekend from Mom's cooking and a free washer and dryer to do my laundry, I decided to take the crucifix which hung in my bedroom through my childhood. I was raised Catholic and figured the crucifix might help protect me if it was hung in my room at the frat house. One day, not long after I hung my crucifix, I returned to my room in the frat house after a long day of classes and practicing, and unlocked my door to find the crucifix I had hung on the wall had been balanced upside down on the tiny nail I used to hang it from. I was astonished and spent the next hour trying to reposition it the way I found it. It was impossible. I placed it back on the nail the right way, and then a few days later it was just gone. Vanished. I never found it again. One night, after some drinking with my friends, I had what you would call some liquid courage.
Ninja
As I lay in
vanish!
bed, I spoke to whatever it was saying in my mind. Come on, touch me again, I'm not afraid. I made a huge mistake that night. I believe I invited it in somehow. Ever since, and to this day, I have periodic thoughts to hurt people, my friends and family.
Oh, that's
They are
regular.
not my thoughts. I'm not a violent person. It's like something tells me to do that. When I feel this, I say a prayer to myself and have never actually gone through with it, but it's there. Always haunting my thoughts, and it's been decades now since this has started. One night I had been getting ready for bed after a long day. I climbed my ladder up to my loft to get some rest.
Okay, Hirsch. You mystical engine, you. I live where the land meets the sky, where the eagle and raven fly free. I live under the sun and moon. You forgot the part where you say, between the four sacred mountains. I am an indigenous creature. Yes. Yes.
And as soon as I laid down, the lights in my room turned on by themselves. I even heard the light switch click over on its own. I felt aggravated and a little pissed off, more than frightened this time. At this point, I may have gotten used to this type of thing. So I climbed down my ladder, walked across the room and turned off the lights and got back into bed. Again the lights turned on. This time I was really pissed at having to again climb down the ladder and turn off the lights.
Motherfucker.
Standing at the light switch for the third time, I finally spoke out loud to whatever it was and said in a firm voice, "Stop messing with me, I'm tired, leave me alone." The lights stayed off and I learned a valuable lesson that night. Whatever it was feeding off my fear, and this time I finally stood up for myself. Things got better from then on. The oppressive, heavy feelings I had in my room subsided and I felt empowered to stand up for myself. One winter it was record-breaking cold, and the wind rolled off Lake Erie and through the Cleveland streets, making it feel like pins pricking any exposed skin. It was painful just to walk to and from school. The ancient boiler heater in the house had broke down, and the space heater I was using did little to warm up my room. A friend I had back in high school had recently moved to Cleveland.
Dasko Draw says there should be a storyteller who has you guess what the monster is, and the storyteller, no matter what you guess, says it's a skinwalker. Even if it's like a story with all like the Frankenstein monster tropes, and people guess Frankenstein's monster is like, nope, it was a skinwalker. Like walking around in a Frankenstein's monster skin. Herschel says this one time at sheep camp, after a long day of shearing sheep. Oh, wait, wrong story. That's how you know it's going to be a good skinwalker story, when it starts out this one time at sheep camp.
To attend law school, and after meeting up with him for drinks one night, he invited to put me up on his couch until the heater in the frat house had been repaired. Soon after I started staying on my buddy's couch, I received a strange voicemail on my cell phone. All of this occurred over a decade ago, and the exact details have escaped me over the years. Here is what I remember about the call. It came up as all symbols, number signs, and stars, not an actual phone number. So I ignored it, thinking my phone was malfunctioning or something. Then I noticed there was a voicemail. It was a strange low voice in a tone that sounded electronic, like with a fuss to it, like you would hear from radio static. It said something like, "You'll never get away or you'll never escape." I played it for my buddy I was staying with, and he said, "Wow, that's freaky, man. Someone is messing with you." I knew it wasn't someone messing with me, it was the voice of whatever had been haunting me at the frat house. I eventually graduated and moved to a southern state for grad school. I've had a
do my Christopher Walken impression. This one time at sheep camp, after a long day of shearing sheep. Oh, wait, wrong story. There you go. I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. 10 Below. Friends call me Snow Miser. Whatever I touch turns to snow in my clutch. I'm too much. I'm Mr. Hot Summer. I'm Mr. Sun. I'm Mr. Heat Blister. I'm Mr. 101. Friends call me Heat Miser. Whatever I touch starts to melt in my clutch. I'm too much. Oh God, I should animate that. I should animate everything. Anyway.
Few weird paranormal experiences since, but nothing like what I experienced while living in the frat house. My experiences there got me interested in all things paranormal. TV shows, books, and podcasts in my quest to understand what it was that was in that house and what caused all my weird and frightful experiences.
It's like, how many times can you fit experiences, like the word experiences, in one paragraph? Dasko says, I'm trying a new program called Animation Paper. Intriguing. That sounds interesting. Go on.
A little bit of background. Her particular sub-campus of the college she went to was in the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona, and had originally been co-located with an Air Force airfield, cadet school, something that ended up closing a long time ago, like pre-60s. So there were quirks to the campus like senior housing being in former officer house, little bungalows, and a lot of abandoned buildings within sight of shiny new classrooms and dorms for the expensive honors engineering program. Apparently a lot of meth use went in on this weird borderlands, but that's not really what this story is about. My sister, in college at the campus mentioned above. Her and her friends bored out of their minds, so they do typical college kid things, in addition to weird college stuff. Weird as in one of the kids liked to practicing knife throwing in his dorm room and subsequently put a bunch of holes in the wall and ceiling. I mention this because her and her friends were concerned the kid in question would lose his dorm deposit, and were looking for paint that perfectly matched the dorm walls to repair, cover up the knife throwing holes. Obviously the college doesn't sell its paint colors, so they're having a tough time. I am telling you this because it is important. Moving on to the more normal college activities they did, urban exploring the disused parts of campus. A lot of beat-up bungalows filled with recent beer cans, ashes from fires, etc., college kids and meth. Neither super interesting or super risky, they were definitely told to be careful out there, but they might not have been even technically trespassing.
Hirsch says, in my experiences experienced numerous experiences. Okay. Melody, are you there? What should I do with the background? Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. Oh, looks like I'll have to... Dasco says office desk. Love, what should I put in the background? Melody says, looks good as is. Hersha says, he didn't want me Valley in background. Dasco says, a tuba. A tuba what? A tuba lube? A tuba toothpaste? A tuba foot cream? Yeah, I guess this will do. A tuba Joe Pesh? Well, no, I think this is good. What should I draw next? For the next stream, because I think. Wait, should I keep going, or should we call it good on the stream tonight? Aneth Watertown. Can we have something that's more akin to like a popular a character, be it from a cartoon or video game? Dasco Draws says Millie. Okay. Millie. Any other suggestions other besides Aneth Water Tower and Millie? How about Spear from Primal? Oh. Herschel says Naruto. uh. Herschel says Itachi. We got 2 votes for Spear. Herschel says, in old Navajo clothing. Well, Spear ought to be pretty easy. I just more or less have to draw myself without the beard and in a loincloth and with more muscles. You see? Spear fighting the diseased dinosaur? Oh man, that's a tall order. Okay, we'll put this in its own folder set. Oh yeah, that was my 4th dimension tree. Okay. Spear fighting IHS secretary? What? While trying to reveal his chart number? Is Spear fighting the IRS? What's going on here? Oh yeah, usually I start small. Okay. What is IHS? Oh, that's Herschel. Herschel is talking about IHS. Was it like Indian Health Services? Okay, let me find the Primal Zombie Dinosaur. Okay. They do? Oh, your census number. Well, I've never had to deal with them that much. I just usually go to the clinic for my teeth cleanings. Hmm. Yeah, that fucking zombie dino was fucking insane. That episode was intense. Herschel says all 8 clans. You need you need your census number and all 8 of your clans before you can get seen by the clinic. What was his pet dino's name? Was it Tooth? I know the maid dude's name is Spear. Fang. I, I knew it had something to do with teeth. It's like tooth? That doesn't sound right. Yes, it's fang. Damn it. So close yet that fucking far off. Ribbit? Oh shit. It's like fucking quiet in here. I'm just so focused on freaking drawing. Oh, sweet pot pie time. Go get it, Dasco. Alright, back to these stories.
And usually
Sorry
went
for all the
during
dead
day.
air.
One day they notice a low-slung building that, while not quite new, is still definitely newer than the rest of the disused ones. Looks a lot like the current campus buildings and somewhat similar to the student union. but just as abandoned, broken and boarded up windows, a little bit of graffiti on the outside, and also way far off into the borderlands. They get excited and plan a more formal, nighttime expedition, since they assume something new might be guarded. Try and do a little research, can't find anything on the nameless building, probably because it's nameless. Night falls and they excitedly head off into the meth necropolis, armed with flashlights and maybe B&E tools. Get to the building, just as dead and disused as they left it that afternoon. No signs of any security at all, especially because the doors turn out to be completely unlocked. They enter and find a shockingly clean campus building. It looks like it's regularly cleaned. There's no furniture anywhere, but the hallways are spotless and freshly finished under their flashlight beam. Layout a lot like their student union, large central hallway with what would have been a reception booth. They Scooby-Doo split up, my sister heading forward through the hallway with one group while the other group heads off behind the reception booth. The hallway has glass display cases like you'd expect, empty but also intact. They notice there's none of the otherwise omnipresent lizards scampering around, nor any roaches, nor moths, or anything else that usually thrives where people aren't. Suddenly, there's a terrific burst of electronic static from the wall. Then they hear the voices of the other group through the static. Then they realize it's coming from an intercom on the wall. The other group found an intercom, tried it on a whim, and found it shockingly. It was powered and functional. My sister finds and flips a light switch and the hallway is bathed in fluorescent light. The whole building is powered on. Kind of weird for a totally empty building, but okay. They reunite with the other group, feeling a little bolder now that they're doing it in a lighted building. Turn off the main hallway and enter one of the large rooms. Probably intended to be a dining hall judging by the layout. Still no furniture, some places that looked intended for buffet tables, and a pair of those swinging kitchen doors. Big windows here, so they leave the lights off and move across to the kitchen doors, trying to keep their flashlights from flashing the windows. Beyond the doors, sure enough, there's a kitchen. Actually some furniture, equipment here, a couple ovens, but not a full suite of equipment. Still nothing alive, and it's as spotless as the rest of the building. Kitchen is mostly a dead end apart from a couple doors that look like storage. I can't remember if she told me they looked like walk-in freezer doors or just pantry doors. Let's go with pantries. Anyway, still pretty emboldened, they decide to peek inside one of the door. Opens onto a room lined with empty shelves. But something's wrong with the floor, and they can't figure out what it is. It's like it's raised up a couple inches and seems to eat their flashlight beams, just absolute pitch black. Some of the floor seemed to be resting against the door and fell out when they opened it. They risk flipping on the kitchen light to try and get a better look. The floor is covered in huge black flies. No, not covered, engulfed. My sister said it was literally 3 to 4 inches of flies on top of flies. All dead. They stare for a moment before one of them wordlessly closes the door. None of them want to admit any real fear, but people start making thin excuses about how it's getting late and let's go back and have a little party before bed. These thin excuses are of course greedily accepted, and they start making their way out of the kitchen. The last one out turns the light off before bolting out the swinging doors. Creep back across the dining hall. Back in the central hallway. Reluctantly turn out the lights. The switch is near the center of the building and head for the doors they came in through in the darkness. But one of their flashlights catches a glint off of something, right in the middle of the hallway they came through. 2 paint cans, the metal kind with the handles. Try to remember if they were there before, but nobody wants to think too hard about it. They get closer. The cans have no dust on them. The cans are untouched. The cans are unopened. The cans have big clear labels from University Building Services on them. The labels clearly state dorm wall 2354 or whatever. The paint is the exact paint the knife edgelord needs for his walls. The group holds in the hallway, holding their breath. Usually this would be a moment for hooting and hollering and not believing their good luck, a moment to be recounted as a punchline. Not this time. Finally, the knife edgelord pipes up and claims it's an outdated shade or something. This is obviously bull, but nobody is in any mood to disagree. Leave via the front door, taking every care to walk and not sprint. Nobody looks back as they walk back to their main part of campus. My sister said they didn't really do much exploration of the borderlands that year after this. The knife edgelord ended up cutting out a piece of drywall with a knife and taking it to a paint store to get a custom mix, which he used to cover up the knife holes. They say nobody ever heard from the security deposit again.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Okay.
Remember to check out
Herschel, you still there? We're about to play 5 allegedly true scary skinwalker encounter stories. Man, that's a mouthful. Man, that's a mouthful. 5 allegedly true scary skinwalker encounter stories. Cryptid horror stories featuring Mr. Creepypasta. Man, that's a name that's a narrator's name I haven't heard in a while. Of course, this is like fucking 5 years ago this was uploaded. All right. Let's check it out.
Me when I was a kid, probably 11. I haven't told anyone this story because we aren't supposed to talk about them in my culture. If you talk about them...
Hold on. Sorry. Am I blasting people's radios out? No, I'm not. Oh, sweet. Dasco has sent me a link on that animations paper program, and programmer dude needs a bit of help. God damn it. Okay. It's like in helping this guy do his programming homework, it's like I try to be as clear and concise with my instructions as possible, but for some reason he overcomplicates things by adding a little more to what I instructed him to do. And it's annoying, so I find that I have to, like, within one instruction to him, I find like I have to reiterate like what I'm saying, but in doing so, I'm afraid he might try to like take the last thing I said in that statement too literal and mess it up. It's I don't know, this guy, like, he's getting it, he understands it, but he's slowly getting it. But I'm just glad I won't have to deal with him anymore after this. But I don't know, like he'll take my simple instructions and overcomplicate it, and then when I give him like really in-depth instructions to make sure he doesn't screw it up, like he'll only utilize a portion of what I told him to do, and then he screws it up. Like, oh god damn it, no. It's like I can't be like short and concise with this guy, because he'll take that short and concise instruction and like freaking overcomplicate things. But if I'm like really clear, like give him step-by-step instructions of like how to do like the simple task, he'll only utilize like a portion of that step-by-step thing and screws it up. This man, just fucking get it, man. Just fucking get it. Okay. Anyway, hold on. Let me turn this down. Like, I'm blasting my ears out over here. Over there. Okay, here we go.
They gain an attraction towards you and focus on you more. For clarification, I am a Native American male, Apache and Navajo from Arizona, and my Navajo side is from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I somewhat know what they are and know about.
Dasco says he can lead a horse to water, but you should have to stop it from eating dirt. You shouldn't have to stop it from eating dirt. Nice. Nice. That is a good representation of what I'm dealing with when trying to tutor some of these fellow classmates. It's like, oh man, just it's right there. Just please fucking get it. Like, speaking of which, I should probably get on some homework. I guess tomorrow. I forgot what was going on tomorrow. I don't remember if we have any class tomorrow. God damn it, I should have been paying attention. You see, like, I don't listen to a lot of the lectures because I find the instructor like kind of like gleams over stuff. Like gleans over stuff and just like not going too much in depth on like what's really important. But for the most part, I just get really bored and preoccupied with my thoughts. And I think it's becoming a pretty major issue because this didn't used to happen to me before. Like I could listen to a whole lecture and just like be in tune to it. But I think it's because I have so much stuff going on at once that I focus on different things that I should pay attention to. Because I know, like, when it comes to doing an assignment, all I have to do is just, like, read through the material and fucking get it done. But then, like, he makes, like, certain announcements during class, like, oh, like, we're not going to have class such and such day. Instead, I'll have this assigned or whatever. And I completely forget because I don't make notes of that stuff. Fuck. Anyway, I'm not sure if I have class tomorrow. Hold on, let me check my email. Good morning, everyone. On Monday, November 7th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m, quiz 4 will be available in Blackboard. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Quiz 4 will be due Tuesday, November 8th at noon when completed upload. Okay, so we have a quiz tomorrow. So I don't think we're going to have class. Good morning, everyone, for Monday, November 7th. Read. Okay, there's no classes going on tomorrow. It's just a quiz and reading material. All right, cool. Fucking cool, man. Yes! It's all there in the emails. Nice. So, I don't think Herschel's here anymore. I think he buggered off. But here's his stories anyway.
About them. We take them very seriously if one is spotted, and even the Navajo police will come out to investigate the area. Anyway.
That's true. The Navajo police have a Skinwalker task force that investigates this stuff.
On to my story about when I saw one. My family and I live in Arizona, and we occasionally visit our Navajo family in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We left early to get there by noon or less. It is a very long and boring trip there. But we get there before noon and we have time to mess around and talk with our extended family. And we, kids, start to play around till the evening starts to show. The house is too small for everyone to fit and sleep in. Some of the kids have to sleep in the trailer and truck camper, but 2 of my cousins and I had the amazing luck of sleeping in the old, slightly torn tent. It's nighttime now, around 8 p.m., and all of us get ready for bed. We are well asleep at this point, and for some unknown reason, I wake up. Of course, I'm still tired and rubbing my eyes while yawning, meaning I wasn't well aware of my surroundings. Once I finish rubbing my eyes, I look straight at the entrance of the tent and see a figure, illuminated by the back porch light, standing in front of the tent. At first I was scared, but thought it was my other cousins just messing with us. As I was thinking this, I thought, why would they go through this much trouble of staying up late just to have the off chance of us waking up and seeing them? As this person was still standing outside our tent looking at us, I turned to one of my older cousins who was 2 years older than me to wake him up and tell him that someone was standing outside of our tent. He tries to brush me off, but I persist and he turns to me and asks me what I wanted. I tell him to look at the entrance of the tent, and he does. I've never seen someone go from the brink of sleep to sheer panic and alertness in their eyes that fast before. He looks at me with this panicked face and tells me to be quiet. He whispers to me that it's a skinwalker and that we need to be quiet again. We lay there for the longest time, and from my memory it was at least an hour or more. We were just about to go back to sleep because it hadn't done anything. Then it started to walk around the tent, in a pace so insanely slow that it kept us up. Remember when I said this was an old tent? Yeah, it had some holes in it. One of the holes was the size of a quarter, and I decided to be brave. As it continues to walk around the tent a fourth time, I slowly crawl towards the hole and try to take a look. As I did this, my cousin told me to get back to the bed or it'll hurt us. Of course, as a kid, I ignored the warning. I'm at the quarter-size hole and looking out to see whatever it was. It comes around the hole, and what I saw was bone-chilling. When I looked out that hole, I saw what I believed to be a skinwalker. Well, its lower half and not its face, thank God. What I saw was dirt or coal-covered legs and some kind of makeshift animal pelt. I bolt back and hide under my sleeping bag while my cousin does the same. This thing decided to stop moving and start looking at us again, as if it knew that I saw it and it was letting me know. Now it continues to stand there again and watch us. I hid under the covers until I spent every ounce of energy being scared, and finally fell asleep. I woke up early, maybe around 5, and I decided to look around the tent to see if there was anything there. I see footprints, bare footprints that send shivers throughout my body. I saw the footprints move around the tent. This hit me hard because I was now realizing it wasn't a dream. As I further investigate the footprints, I noticed that it went off track. It went off to the rocky hills nearby where we were staying at. I follow the track to the hills, about a football field away from the house. As I continue to follow the tracks, something strange and scary happens. It goes from 2 footprints walking for a while to footprints and handprints in the dirt starting to form. I found that kinda strange because no person would do that out here. As I followed the tracks further into the hills, the hands and feet started to get smaller and smaller. This is when I started to get scared again. It then subtly changed into coyote paw prints. That is when I stopped and turned back home, first walking fast, then onto a full-on run. When I got back, I sat down on the back porch for a while and thought about telling my family, but I didn't think that they would believe me. In the end, I didn't tell anyone, even the cousin I woke up in the middle of the night, mostly because it seemed outlandish and sounded like what a kid would tell to get attention. Well, that's my story. I urge you guys.
Sounds to me this dude doesn't live on the reservation all too often. Like, he did say he was just visiting, but adults on the reservation would take a story like that very seriously. So I guess it's just this dude, when he was a kid, just not living on the reservation that long, like experiencing something like that might seem to be outlandish and unbelievable, but like if like a youngster were like on the reservation were to tell that experience to like to an adult or an elder, they would most likely believe it wholeheartedly and probably either investigate it or just have like a ceremony done for that particular youth in case they are cursed or bewitched. But yeah, it's like, no matter how outlandish it sounds, like a story like that like would be taken into serious consideration.
To not go into the Navajo reservation to go looking for them. You will bite off more than you can chew. We, my people, take these beings very seriously and do our best to not talk about them. Even though I broke this code, I just thought to warn you guys about them. Whoever is listening are the first people to hear this story. I had a few more stories to tell, but this is by far the scariest one I had.
I was a kid when this happened. My uncle and I were finishing up chopping and gathering firewood for my...
Damn it. I hate it when compilation videos do that. Well, it's like either a top 5 or top 10. You start with the highest number and then you go down. That way the viewer of your compilation video is aware of how many videos or like compilations or stories or videos are left. If you start from 1 and then go up, it's like when you're watching the video, you sort of forget, like, oh, we're on number 3 of I don't know how many, because we're counting up instead of down. If we were on number 3 on a countdown, then you'd know that this is the third to last story. But if you're on number 3 and it's like counting up, and you forgot like whether or not the video was like a top 5 or top 10 or top 20, then you're unaware of like where you are exactly on the list. Anyway, it's just like a pet peeve of mine. If you're gonna do like a freaking like 5 story or 5 video thing, you start with 5 and then you count down. You're counting down. Idiots. Anyway,
grandmother, because it was getting dark. Driving back on a dirt road at about 30 miles.
So, since this is a second story, this is like numbered at like number 2. Like, no, it should be number 4. Because you should be counting down. I don't know, it's just me and my pet peeve.
Per hour, give or take 5 miles. I had this awful sense of being watched. Before I could turn to look out my window on passenger side, my uncle quickly shouted, "Don't!" I completely froze. My heart felt like it was beating out of my chest, then completely stopped when I heard a tap, tap on my window. My uncle sped up and was loudly praying in my native language. I didn't know what was going on and thought that it was over till our truck suddenly dipped from the bed. My uncle then started saying, "Look at me, don't turn away," over and over. Then I heard it again, tap, tap, but from the window behind me. It was getting harder for me to breathe, and I wanted to cry. A minute or 2 passed, and then the truck dipped again. My uncle looked around and sighed. It was quiet, besides the truck and the road. He looked at me and said, "We'll ask your father to do a prayer in the morning, so the evil will forget our faces," or the Navajo to English equivalent. I remember curling up on the seat and just staring at the radio, watching the time, listening to my uncle sing an old prayer, till we got to my grandmother's house.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. The quality of the audio sucks, but you know, it's 5 years ago.
Let me preface this by saying I'm generally not very superstitious, but I do have my fair share of experiences that have made me a little closer to believing in the supernatural. I recently learned about skinwalkers, and this experience came back to me when I learned what they were. I'm a Boy Scout, currently 14 years old. This experience happened about 2 years ago, right after I joined Boy Scouts. My troop was on a campout somewhere out in the country, and there were woods on one side of us and fields on all others. The first day and night passed by as normal, playing around, cooking food, and trying to cope with having no service. The second day was different. A lot of the scouts had gone out for a hike on a requirement, so they would be gone for at least 2 hours. I didn't have much to do, so I walked over by the stream by the woods and sat down. Amidst my aimless rock throwing and life contemplating, I began to gaze into the woods. I wasn't expecting to see anything other than squirrels or birds, but I saw one of the scouts that had gone out on the hike. They hadn't been gone for more than 5 minutes, so I was assuming he was taking a bathroom break before the hike. I yelled "hey" and waved at him. I could tell he heard me because he turned his head toward me. But when he did it, it was a very jerky motion. No, I didn't see much wrong with this. I just thought that he was startled. However, it was somewhat odd that his head just snapped directly toward me. He didn't say anything and just turned back and walked into the woods. That also didn't raise any suspicion because I just assumed he didn't want to be witnessed relieving himself. Later that night, most of the scouts and leaders had gone into their tents to sleep. However, my friend and I were still both sitting at the table that we had set up talking. This was when I saw something walking upright about 100 yards away up on a hill. It looked like the guy I had seen earlier in the woods. I suddenly stopped talking and looked at it, following it intently with my eyes, trying to see where it would go. My friend turned and looked, but later said that he didn't see anything. The actual scout was in his tent. I had seen him go in earlier. I brushed it off as me just seeing things, and we eventually went to bed. The next morning, we all packed up and waited for our parents. I had the urge to pee, so I went back near the woods. After I finished, I took one last look at the woods. I saw the boy again. He was staring straight at me. His eyes were glassy and glossed over. He said nothing, turned around and walked into the woods, moving like a robot. I immediately ran back to the group, but told nobody. This is the first time I have told anyone this story. I don't know what that thing that looked like my friend was, but whatever it was, I know it wasn't human.
Creepy.
My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm, while my parents were away Christmas shopping. I was home by myself way late in the night, and I hear all the cows freaking out. I knew that it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area, so I threw on some boots, grabbed a shotgun, loaded it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds, making it just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time I see two giant dogs. They were standing up, facing each other and fighting. I think perfect 2 for 1. So I pumped the shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 Gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack, they both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away. On their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I'm a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories the native kids like to tell to scare us. That night, they became real to me. So I live in Colorado, and I absolutely love the outdoors. I know a lot of random, out-of-the-way places which are rather secluded. One of my favorite spots to go just so happens to be the least frequented trail that I've ever seen. Me and my friends have seen rattlesnakes, mountain lions, and elk in that area, none of which you want to walk up on and scare, but we've never feared for our safety here. And that changed one summer day. Me and my friend Anthony decided this particular place would be a great spot to build a hut of sorts to hang out in, smoke pot, and shoot the shit. The trail starts out on the other side of a river that's knee-deep in the right spots. We can cross just fine. As we were drying off our feet and putting our boots back on, a ranger was coming down the hill. The look on his face was a peculiar mix of confusion and something we couldn't quite put our fingers on. He stopped to talk to us and asked, "What are you boys doing up here?" We were caught off guard at the simple fact that he was here. In the 10 or 15 times we've hiked this spot, we've only seen others 2 of the times. We were just going for a hike. Are we trespassing? I asked curiously because of his accusing tone, and the fact that it was an unmarked trail off the side of the road. No, just rarely see people here. You boys be safe up there. He seemed like he wanted to say something else, but we got the feeling he wanted to leave fast. As he was saying this, as he started wading across the river, paying no mind to taking off his boots or socks. We quickly forgot about this, and we headed up the 45-degree incline that the trail started out on. We continued up a box canyon and slowly made it up the trail. When we got about halfway up the trail, we decided to veer off of it and find a spot to build our hut. Around a mile off the trail, we came up on a large granite outcropping with a small ravine right through the middle. This was as good a spot as any, and we started clearing the ground. For about an hour, we dug out a foundation and started gathering wood for the structure. We had the groundwork for a mini lodge and decided to make it partially underground. We dug down about 1.5 feet and hit a sheet of rock. My shovel struck the rock first, and in about a second, an intense vibration starting in my hands spread through my body. I looked over at Anthony and watched as his shovel struck the rock. It was easy to tell that we were experiencing the same sensation. It took all of my willpower to let go of the shovel, and the instant my grip loosened, it stopped. We were awestruck at what just transpired. As I looked at Anthony, completely dumbfounded, I saw a large, lanky figure on top of the outcropping. Its ill-proportioned arms jutted out with what I imagined was its finger pointing in the direction we came from. I yelled for us to get out of here, and we instantly started running. This was the one time I ever...
Get the hell out of here!
Ever. We made it down to the river in 15-20 minutes. It normally took an hour. Once we hit the shore, we caught our breaths and collected our thoughts. "Did you see that shit, dude?" I basically yelled. "I think I'm looking at it right now," he choked out. I turned around and saw it standing on the ridge, seemingly staring at us. It was odd how dark the area around it was. The sun was shining with barely any clouds in the sky, and yet it seemed that the darkness was embracing it. I looked back at Anthony, and he had the same look on his face as the ranger did. That was 2 years ago, and I've yet to go back. Since then, I refused to hike solo anywhere. I guess that goes to show that you don't know what the hell is out there, and you need to respect the wilderness, because you might just piss something off.
Oh, was that it? Oh, it was. That was short. Okay, what time is it? 7:30. So, how long have I been streaming? About 2 hours. Well, I think that's good for now. This was a pretty decent stream. We got one piece done, and we're pretty far into the sketching of another piece. It's looking pretty good. But here's that Luna piece. Very nice. Luna's sitting pretty. Melody says that story was underwhelming. I don't even remember it, to be honest. Like I tuned out. But yeah. But this one's done, and this one's looking pretty good. Fairly more or less action packed. So yeah, we're just gonna end it here for now, and jump back on this tomorrow. And looks like I might have some free time. I just got to get a few assignments done, and we're good. So thanks to all those who participated in chat. It's always awesome interacting with all of you. Dasco Draws is here. Robin Kesmarsik dropped by. As always, my lovely moderator Melody is with me. My cousin Herschel popped in for a bit. And yeah, that's it. So fucking awesome. And to all the lurkers who may be watching, and to all those who are watching later, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you're down for it, and if you're able to, you can donate to my Ko-fi page. Link is in the description section below. Any amount would be very much appreciated. So, until next time, this has been Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I shall check y'all later. Sweet. Bye.